Yes, welcome to the fleet update. I would say this month, but it's not this month. It's the past 3 months update because I have now decided that this update should be every 3 months for the simple reasons that there will be more going on. And this is a big one. Last time, Nigel wasn't here. This car here, this is Nigel. If you know my channel, you will know that this car is Nigel. You may also know that Nigel went away for 2 months to boarding school to stay with his uncle Michael Jackson because the yard was a bit too full. Since then, an awful lot of stuff has gone out of the yard and Nigel has come back. In fact, he's been back for over a month. What about Nigel himself though? Any changes here? Well, the answer is yes. Only slightly though. He's been to a couple of shows, of course. That's his purpose. That's what makes him get up in the morning and carry on with his special diet. We went to the big one, yeah. Pride of Longbridge. And the good news is, he's okay. If that's confusing you, I'll tell you. On my way, the usual thing. Up at 5 o'clock, get ready, make egg sandwiches, off I go, full of beans, full of excitement to go and meet all of these other fantastic rovers and rover people. Stopped at the services, coolant leak. Yes, a coolant leak. Not very helpful, rather disconcerting. Anyway, this coolant leak appeared to be coming from the cam belt side of the engine, looking like it was coming out of the head, which I only did the head gasket and cam belt the previous year. But anyway, on closer inspection, it was coming from the thermostat housing. So I bought a thermostat housing, got ready to fit it, and then discovered it was actually the inlet manifold gasket that had started to crumble and fail and basically leak all of its juice out down the back of the engine. It was very fortunate that I did the responsible thing and start taking it apart. Instead of thinking, well, the thermostat housing is only going to leak so much, so I'll keep my eye on it. And now I am happy to report that Nigel is still in excellent health. He's even had the track rod end replaced on the front because there was a bit of a knot going on. But there's still one, so I think it might need a drop link as well. Yes, look who's still here. Would you believe it? Would you believe that this car would still be here another 3 months later? 3 months ago I mentioned that this car, which hasn't moved at all since then, the previous owner would like it back. The previous owner is called Andrew, and he's not afraid to admit that he did all this stuff to it. Yep, Andrew would still like this car back. And I must say, after all this time, it still is a bit mouldy in places, but it doesn't smell. That definitely means that the previous owner, Andrew, is a lovely, cleanly, wholesome type. Because look at the steering wheel, it's not mouldy. That means he washes his hands when he's had a poo. Seriously, what am I supposed to do with this? I mean, that's a very, very long time to have bought a car and simply left it in the yard where you came to see it. That simply means I've got to get tough on this now. This car needs to go, or simply to be paying some rent. And I said that 3 months ago and nothing has changed. So there's going to come a point where I'm just going to simply claim this car back as my own and then sell it again. By contrast, of course, at the other end of the yard we still have the Rover SD1. And I say contrast because although this car has gone nowhere, this pays to live here. That's right. A man called George pays me to keep this car here. He pays me to look after it, to open it up sometimes and reminisce of the old car smell, which this car happens to have quite a lot of. Yeah, the old car smell, the proper old car smell. I love it. It's like a treat to occasionally just come down here and sit in it. Although I must also admit that it's been 3 months since I've done that because I've not really had any need. But this summertime there will be a little video on this car and its engine, and I'm looking forward to doing that. But yes, the nostalgia is very big on this car, because there was a time when I had one at a time where it was worth nothing. It wasn't worthwhile keeping, and it was in much better condition than this one as well, of course, and it worked, and it had an MOT. Yeah, it was still worth nothing, and that's what I like. Go back to sleep, Kenny. As you can see, transit face is still in the yard. I won't go as far as to say he's alive and well in the yard, because obviously he's been sat around with no MOT for ages. There's no handbrake, needs a windscreen, needs loads of welding. Well, I say loads, not really loads. And in actual fact, when I get myself another welder, I'll come to that story in a bit, then maybe I should take on this job. Maybe I should do all of the recommission work on this truck, except for the windscreen, because I don't know how to fit them. For a long time, Transit Face has had me in two minds about what I do. Do I keep? Do I sell? Or what? Which one do I do? I mean, he was for sale. He almost sold. Somebody always bought him, but then that didn't happen. And now, of course, I'm in the position of, do I put Transit Face up for sale or not? Now, let's talk about a few cars that have gone from the yard. From the yard of dystopian nightmares. Well, there is Boaty's Rover 45. That spent a couple of months here just making funny knocking sounds and basically not really doing a great deal. And then there's also a car called Vaughan, a Rover 416 automatic. You know, the Honda engine, single cam automatic box with some corrosion that I started trying to make some repair panels with. And to be honest, I was quite good at shaping the metal, sticking the bits together, slightly different matter. I thought I need much more practice with this. Anyway, I've since found out why I couldn't do that, and the car's also gone. Yeah, both his Rover 45, the Honourable HR Rover and Vaughan have gone off to a place called Pingu Concord in Essex, and that's the end of that story. Also gone from this area here is Harry Seacombe. Harry Seacombe, the Rover 600, spent quite a little while just sat here not doing very much at all. For that, he was at the other end of the yard, right over there, for quite a while doing very little at all. And now he's gone. He's been sold. He's gone somewhere where he's being looked after, and he is being looked after. In fact, he's now a running car. You would have to be reasonably short-sighted to not spot that there's a caravan in this corner where Harry Seacombe used to live. This is the caravan called George Roger Botti. This caravan has had its first journey, and that journey was only from one end of the yard to the other whilst I hooked it up to Eric and moved it. It was a worthwhile journey, and to my mind this is a much better place to keep a caravan than where it was over there overlooking those houses. One day this caravan may go into service, but so far all the plans that Boaty and I have had for this have been scuppered by lack of interest, bad weather and general lack of direction. Maybe that will change. Otherwise, I'm stuck with a caravan. Now, who do we have here? Of course, it is Alfie. Alfie, my treasured and beloved Rover 45. A car I've so much enjoyed having, and a car I will so much regret actually selling. Also mentioned by many other people. Can't believe it's still here. Why has nobody even bought the car? Why am I still in possession of this rather fabulous Rover 45? Well, soon I won't be. As I had not driven this car for a little while, I decided I think I'll put it back on the road for another month, and checked its MOT, found it had run out. So that kind of stopped that from happening. But It just needs the trailing arms for the MOT, which I will buy next week. But I'm going to be buying them for somebody else and not for me. You see, there's a chap called Aaron who mentioned a while back that he would really like this car, and suddenly the opportunity came up. So he's having it, and it's going to Scotland to live its best life. Yet again, it's another lovely car that doesn't smell. You open the door, it smells nice, it's not damp, it's not mouldy. Even the steering wheel. The steering wheel is indeed proof I wash my hands after a poo. Now then, let's talk about a car called Eric. That's Eric there. It was seen in the previous video, so that means 3 months ago I acquired this car, but I'd only just acquired it. Only just. It was long enough for me to take off the incorrect SE1 wheels and replace them for some equally incorrect R3 wheels. But I do think these prefer being on this car than the other ones did. For the past 3 months, this little car has an awful lot of coverage. An awful lot indeed, and for some very good reasons. The first one is that it has, ever since, been my daily car. So actually, yeah, 3 months of being my daily car. And it went from being something I simply don't really care about a great deal into something that I really quite like. Although today you can't really tell because it's in a shocking condition. When I say shocking, I just mean dirty, filthy. It needs a wash. It is awful. That's the trouble with a daily car, is that most of the time it's going to be picking up the daily dirt as well as doing the daily duties. And in that colour, it shows it fabulously. However, this car has had an awful lot of minor things being done to it since I decided it was going to be a keeper and not for a sailor. And not for a sailor. Yeah, not for a sailor. No sailors are going to be taking this one away. No, it's staying in the yard. It does indeed have the Project Nigel sticker with the Y missing. And then we have a silver ZR boot spoiler. And then we have a little bit of detail of this bit being silver, which I did. But so far I haven't rubbed the paint off of the towing electrics. Around this side, the dent was mostly removed from last time. But what I also did is a repair on this arch that is, well, it's better than it was before. Then we have the wing mirror caps, also in silver, because I thought it worked. And with that, the best bit are these fog lamp bezels, also painted in silver. And I actually quite like the overall look of it now. Then a whole video probably on this wing being replaced and resprayed by me. And yeah, it's filthy, as I said. I also spent quite a long time trying to clear up this rather grubby interior, but it hasn't worked that well. Not yet. Perseverance, that's what I need. That's what I happen to have as well. And Eric was chosen to be the car to have the permanent dash cam. And when I say permanent, it's still not wired in properly. It's still got a dangly bit there. More, of course, oil change was needed, coolant change also needed. The car was leaking. It was leaking coolant, and then it was leaking oil as well. Both of those things have been fixed by me. But the best thing was the introduction of the Chaz Lee tune-up ECU, which I just bunged in, and it made it a lot quicker and a lot more interesting to drive. And that's it for Eric for this time. If I acquire a car and I fix it and sell it, I consider that to be a success. If I acquire a car and fix it and use it, I consider that. I consider that also to be a success. But also, if I acquire a car and don't fix it, but then sell it on to somebody who does fix it, I consider that to also be a success. And so what else can I tell you? What else has gone? So now let me indulge with you 3 more success stories. The first one is a car formerly known as Frank, then became Edwin, then didn't want to work at all, and is now in the ownership of a chap called Adam, who will do all of the work. Not necessarily himself, but he's happy to do the lot. He really wants to save that car. And I say, Good luck to you, chap, and I'm glad you took it on. Next, another long-term yard dweller that did actually get some fixing by me, but not the fixing I quite expected. That car is called Rhiannon, the Rover 45, and that has gone to a place called Kent, I believe, where it is going to be completely, properly and most definitely fixed by a chap who can't find one down where he is. Might be Essex actually. Finally, we have a car called Knackered Horse, which was an MG TF in Trophy Blue. That was causing me quite a few problems, but it's been bought. And in actual fact, it's been bought 3 months ago because the previous update video was just at that time where it was just about to go. And it's gone off to have all sorts of stuff done to it. And speaking of TFs, yep, this one is still here. I don't know how much longer for, but it is still here. And at some point, it won't still be here. But that's all I can say about that one. There was some major changes in the lockup of dreams as well. Yes, major dreams and changes. In fact, 3 days worth of organising things, finding new places for things, getting rid of things. And now, it doesn't really look any better than it did do before. Briefly, I had this tidy bench here, and that made quite a difference. That corner, of course, being emptied has made a huge difference. And these bread trays are another nice little storage idea. Oh, also the hose pipe of desire. What great additions! The hose pipe of desire and the jet wash of jeopardy. And jeopardy is probably the correct word for it because I don't really like... Yeah, make your point. Still here, of course, is the fridge of frostiness, and now the extra Nigel cup of niceness. Another new addition to the yard is this rather unusually red Rover 25 called Peter Torville. Peter Torville is not my car, but it is in the yard here, and I'm responsible for the filming of this particular project. The project is the 500 brake horsepower Rover 45. It's a stupid idea, but it's fun. This car is a non-runner for 2 reasons. The first one is that it does have an immobiliser issue, and the second is the head gasket has failed. Actually, come to think of it, there is a third reason, and that is there's no engine in it. There's no engine, so it won't run, will it? There's no engine because we took it out. Michael Jackson here is another temporary car. This is living here just for the moment whilst I find a new loving home for the thing. That's who's going to buy this car. Somebody who's going to look after it. Somebody who will really want this. Not somebody who wants to run around. Not somebody who doesn't wash their hands after having a poo. It's clean. It smells clean. It's not mouldy. It is a lovely car. And its name is Michael Jackson. Over in this corner here, we have 2 also long-term stayers. This one here, the 800, called, what did I call this? Did I call it Patrick? Patrick, I can't be bothered taking that off. Patrick here has an issue with communication. The ECU doesn't want to talk to the ignition or something like that. And it needs somebody who can really take on a project and understand the thing, because the car's not rotten. It needs some cosmetic stuff, but it's not terrible, it really isn't. Either that, or I'm going to get to a point where that engine in there is going to come in handy for ancillaries for my other car. What will come first? Will somebody actually buy it? Will they? And now we have Amy Winehouse. This car has been in my possession for quite a while. Yes, quite a while. It could have just been scrapped months back, 6 months back, 9 months back if I'd have been pulling my finger out, 10, maybe even 11 months if I did things the way other people do things. But I don't. And so instead it's been languishing in the yard, still 3 months later, not really any change. But my reasoning is that even the roof there, that's actually not rusty. Somebody's going to want that at some point, and I may as well hang on to it until they do. It has just become somewhere to store junk. And really, I'm thinking of getting rid of this junk. Anything that's metal, I could just fill the trailer up and take it. Oh, by the way, yes, I've got a trailer. You may know this anyway, but if you only watch yard updates, which if you do, then it's been 3 months since you've seen me, then you won't know that I have a trailer. A small trailer that can carry small things. And that will be the answer to that. Because I don't like it looking so messy. But look, the engine is still in there, but the grille has gone off. And now there are various cuts out of the sills as well. This car has gone quite a long way to help out other cars. So I'm happy with that. Another one I forgot to mention, Graham Tinkerbell Nuts Garden. Graham Tinkerbell Nuts Garden has gone to its new home, and there it developed an entirely new problem, which is rather disappointing, but it's been rectified, so that's a good thing. There's a bit of an engine. I have been somewhat saving the best bit till last. For those that don't know, I have myself a Rover 420 GSI Tourer. It is a car that I want more than pretty much anything, and that's why it's in here. Even though I've categorically said that this car is not for sale, I've had about 10 people still ask if they can still buy it because everything is for sale or what have you, which I agree with. If the price is right, you can buy it, but the price is not going to be right, and there are still a few knocking about anyway. So it was purchased as an accident damaged car. At this front end here, an Audi had backed its fat arse into it, bent the bonnet, bent the wing, broke the bumper, broke the headlamp and the indicator. And now, as you can see, it is fixed. Well, fixed to the standard I can fix things anyway. At least the wing has been replaced, but the wing had to be fixed as well. That's the previous wing there, which is bent, but not as bent as it was when I first got it. Because actually my first job on this car was knocking the inner wing back out of shape enough so the light and the indicator could be refit. And that also meant knocking the wing out as well, because it was properly bent in. That was bent in, and look, it's come detached there as well, which shows just how bad it was. In fact, this was going to be the replacement, and as you can see, this one here has a massive scratch on it, still some rusty bits, and a great big gouge down there and bent down there as well. Yet that seemed like something I could fix easier than I could fix this one, until Pingu Concord came to the rescue and sent me a wing, which was this one, which obviously still needed some repairs, but it was still a lot better than what I had. This car started off being called Brett Anderson. And the reason why I called it Brett Anderson is because my wife likes Brett Anderson, but she doesn't like R8s. She's never liked them. And I thought, well, that might help her realise just what a nice car this is. And it worked, because she does actually really like it. And because of that, it meant I could get rid of the name Brett Anderson and go back to the name of Toby Charles, which was always going to be the name of an R8 keeper for me. It sounds really daft, I know it does, but there's a good kind of reason for calling it Toby Charles. Anyway, that's this, and I really like this car. Just over 3 months back, a really very nice chap called Kevin Craven came down to the yard unexpectedly with a welder for me, but it was a gasless MIG welder, and I thought, brilliant, excellent. I cracked on and started trying to do bits of welding straight away. The only thing is, I was also then speaking to a chap who's a welder for a living, and on the commercial basis as well, and he said that you're never really going to get quite the result out of that you want, unfortunately. As much as you try, it's not really going to work on cars. Shame. And then, whilst taking on a rather ambitious project of making a 7-foot man out of car parts, I burnt out the switch, the 6-way switch that decides how much electricity is going through the thing that you're sticking together. And I've not been able to find one to replace it. And in the meantime, Steve came along with his welder, with a great big gas bottle, and we did some stuff together. And I discovered that I can weld a lot better than I realised. To the extent that when I eventually get one of these welders with the gas bottle, I would actually happily take that on. Just one problem though, electricity. Yeah, electricity consumption. I've been made aware that maybe using some things like that will cause quite a lot of electricity consumption. So now I'm paying more for electric than I was doing before and using it less, which kind of defeats the object, doesn't it? Two more cars over here. I can't be bothered to talk about these ones because, you know, nothing at all has happened with these whatsoever. Yeah, I don't sit in them, I don't look at them longingly, they're just taking up space. So let's skip over that one. Well, it seems at this point the battery on my microphone has gone, well, flat. It's failed, which means that you can't hear what I'm talking about whilst looking at this particular car, or hear what I'm talking about while I'm walking away from it, past Dr. Crane here. Pity about that.